On this episode of Overthinkr, we've got Jake Watt from Trap Door Brewing. We've got Tom Tørresdal from Victor-23, both award-winning breweries. And we're talking about Pilsners, Poleeko Pale Ale, and Poopin in the Grand Canyon. Found us. I don't know how, but they found us. This is Overthinkr. We're back at our home base. That is Vice Beer in Vancouver, Washington. Our last episode was at Seattle Beer Week at Fast Fashion. Make sure you check that one out. But we're really excited about our guests we've got today. Our guests are Tom Tørresdal from Victor-23 Craft Brewery, also of Vancouver, and Jake Watt of Trap Door Brewing, also,
well,
kind of Vancouver.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Originally. We're
Started in Vancouver. Yeah. And now in Washougal, doing all the action in Washougal, which is really rad. Washougal and Camas, also its own little beer region that's popping off in its own way. So Overthinkr, what is this show? This is a show about beer that's not about beer. It's a conversation, just to hang out with some brewers, people from the industry, get to know them on a different level. Sure, we'll talk about beer. We'll talk about other things too. If you're here today in our live audience, your questions are welcome. We've got little question cards you can pick up at the bar and turn those in to the guys at the booth. The guys at the booth are from ZZeppelin. It is Zach Denton doing the visuals and Sean Burke for the audios. You can catch this podcast on YouTube as well as Spotify, Apple, all those places you get podcasts. They're all there. It's all there. It's all over all that. That's all I got to say about that. Now you know what the podcast is. Let's get right into it. What's up, Tom? Jake? How you guys doing?
How's it going?
Yeah, you guys both are here this evening, I'm sure, off of a typical busy work day of a Thursday,
Yeah, I think we both had our own adventures today in beer mines.
Yeah, I hosted a collab today, so it was pretty chill for me.
You hosted a collab today?
Yeah, we had Via Beer from Portland out. We're brewing a
awesome
North German style Pilsner, so plenty of collaboration day antics, and I actually have to work after this as well.
Okay, the work day's not done.
I got beer to deliver to the other location in Vancouver after this.
Oh, cool.
So.
Right on. Yeah. I saw the big truck pull up. I noticed that you were in the big Trap Door official wagon.
Yeah, you can't fit 80 cases of beer in my Subaru, so I got to drive that thing around.
That makes sense. So you brewed a North German Pilsner with Charlie Devereaux today.
Yep, Charlie came by. We've been scheming on a recipe for a while, wanting to do something, and just kind of came up with a little crusher, like 4.8%, pretty bitter German-style pills that we're going for. We're pretty excited.
So when it comes to collaborations, there's quite a Venn diagram going on right here that I actually didn't realize until I was pulling the cans out, these cans that I set out here on the table. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the cans I put out here. There's definitely quite a bit of a Venn diagram going on because I am privy to knowing that both of you collaborated on something on Tuesday. So what did you guys brew on Tuesday at Victor-23, right?
Yeah, at Victor. Yeah.
What'd you make?
Yeah, a West Coast IPA. Kind of did a beer at over Jake's place for Portland Timbers.
The Evergreen and Gold.
Evergreen and Gold.
Yep.
So that
very good beer.
That got emptied very quick, and kind of wanted a second take of that with some different hops on my system. used 683. Oh God!
Something
An
with
experimental hop
numbers.
that's amazing, and Alani, kind of a real new hop. But
The beer will be cool, but the better part was Tom had came back from the coast last weekend and brought like 24 oysters. So we were having a good time shucking oysters, eating good, and brewing
snot
West
of the
Coast
sea.
IPA.
Snot of the sea.
Snot of the sea.
The
Yeah.
snot.
The
Not of the
first
sea.
West Coast Oyster IPA to go down on the books.
Yeah.
You know how a West Coast Oyster IPA should be brewed. The brewers sit around like bosses, slurping oysters, and none of them touch the beer.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Just keep
Good.
the-
Just to be
keep
clear,
those out.
none of the oysters
To be
made it
clear.
into the beer. They were just present
Yeah.
on brew day.
Exactly.
That's good. Okay, so you guys got you already released a collab together that was the Evergreen and Gold, which was for the Portland Timbers Army Northern Alliance, TANA.
Yeah, they do. They
as
do
call
watch
it,
parties for the away matches at both of our locations, and
which are crazy well attended.
Yeah.
And really fun.
yeah, you wish the team was maybe playing a little better because they all come and they're excited, and then by the end of the game, it's wah wah.
Well, that's
It's good for beer drinking, though.
I was gonna say they drink more, right? So they,
That's true.
got to drown their sorrows a little bit. No, please drink
Very true.
responsibly. So you guys did that for the Portland Timbers. This is kind of the reciprocal collab of that, and then Vice Beer, which I'm part of, has done a collab recently with Tom from Victor-23, who also, Tom, I'll take an opportunity to thank you publicly. I know I've thanked you in private 1,000 times, but Tom was our brewer here at Vice Beer while he was still the head brewer of Victor-23 for the months of December of 2023 and then January and February of 2024, and did an absolutely outstanding job. We love having Tom around.
They call me the Great Double Dipper.
Yes.
Or I think, as you put it, I brew for all the V breweries.
and that's why we got together shortly after you left, and we brewed the Flying V, which was a name that actually Ryan Galford came up with because he was like, it's the two V breweries of the Vancouver. It's a Flying V. There's a lot of V's going on here with Vice and Victor-23 and
Name
Vancouver.
pretty much wrote itself.
So yeah, it made sense, and it's a Maibach. For those that are, for the uninitiated to Maibachs,
Yes.
and Tom being so, a little bit on Tom as well. He won't brag on himself, so I will. Tom
Oh, stop.
comes from Wayfinder. Spent some time at Wayfinder, which is well known for their lagers, but you've also brewed in Norway, we'll get into your most recent accolades a little later, but lagers are your thing, and it's really quickly becoming what Victor-23 is known for too. It made sense for us to do a Maibach. I believe this is even a decocted Maibach.
It is a decocted Maibach, yeah.
Tell us what a Maibach is.
Yeah, but Maibach, the Bach to have in May. Basically, like a Bach is usually kind of a darker, maltier beer. Maibach is a kind of spring beer, spring Bach. So stronger, maltier lager, but lighter in color. Something you want to drink on in spring while you're still a little bit cold and sad about winter, but you're looking forward to summer.
Right. So strong lager means, I think, a completely different thing in Europe than it does here, because I think a lot of people would look at this and be like, I thought you said this was strong. It's 5.8%, which compared to most German lagers being around like the 4.5, this would be a...
It's like if you drink 2 of those, you might feel just a little tiny bit toasty, you know? That's,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's...
yeah.
In Germany, and I think a lot of Europe, you know, the beer consumption it's a different thing. It's not being
Definitely.
drank to get buzzed every night. You can have a few and not get buzzed.
It's more of it's like water. It's a human right. It's not a.
That's a good way to put it. That's a very good way to put it. So Jake, again, I refer back to, I said there's kind of a Venn diagram of a lot of overlapping collabs going on here. So Jake, we also have a collab that is live in the marketplace right now.
Yeah.
That's this guy right here. It says Guild collab really big, but underneath that, Westies with our besties. This was a fun one. Tell us a little bit about how this went down, and this is an idea hatched by the Washington Brewers Guild.
Yeah, I think this beer has been around in other iterations in the past called multiplayer, and the big issue with that was they just kind of let everybody take free reign. So we would see 20 to 30 different multiplayer beers in the market at the same time, and a lot of shops and places were getting pitched the same label, who's brewing this. It was quite confusing. So this year, there's been a takeover of a new crew in the Washington Brewers Guild, and I think they're doing a great job. They tapped us to be the Southwest Washington brewer. Kind of the concept this time around was 5 regions of the state. West Coast IPA for sure. That sells the best right now, it seems like. So, each region was going to have as many collaborators as they wanted, but it was going to be one beer put out into the market. So with different labels to be distinct of which one people were getting.
Right. People need to tell the beer apart.
Yeah.
Which previous iterations, when it was called multiplayer, it was really hard to tell it apart. You'd see half a dozen of them on the shelf and have to turn it around to the backside to be like, well, whose is this?
Yeah.
Very similar to even when Black is Beautiful happened. Kind of a similar phenomenon happened where it was like, okay, the same label is at a lot of places, but you had to have a keen eye to go, okay, well, which one is this? This is, I think, done much better for sure. Mm-hmm. And they simplified it also by doing just the 5 regions, which was like Bellingham, Seattle.
Puget. I don't remember the regional names, but I know the breweries. It was Trap Door, Colshan.
That'd be Bellingham.
Stoop was
Seattle.
Puget. And then Lumberbeard, I guess, is east.
Spokane, out there.
And then Icicle was the last one.
Oh, kind of central Washington.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized Icicle was in on it.
Yeah, and the cool part was we actually had an event. It's over now. It was last weekend where we brought all the regional beers to Vancouver at our tap room, and we had a sixtel of each, and we poured through all of them at the same time. So it was really cool to kind of see everyone's take on what modern West Coast is, and like ours, we had us, you guys, and Well 80. Stoops had 22 collaborators on it, so it's like, I mean, I don't know how you can really, as a brewer that does collabs frequently, I don't really know. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. I don't know how that all works. I think we all had kind of a really good input into ours. Who's to say how much input you get when there's 22 people on an email chain?
This is true. Yeah, this is true. Well, we've experienced that in the past with so we're all 3 North Bank brewers, and this might actually predate both of you, and you should be grateful that it does.
Yes.
But we did used to do what we called the North Bank Beer Week Mega Collab, which started out with a email to 30-something different breweries to all get their inputs. And it turns out that's how you get, like, I don't know, a double dry hopped Imperial Brown Ale was our first. That was our first North Bank Beer Week official beer of the week. Our second one, appropriate sound effects.
Appropriate. I saw that signboard when I got hired at Trap Door, and it was on the wall, and I was like, "What the hell was that?" And I never
An
knew
abomination.
The
A crime against humanity.
we know your well documented love of brown ales.
You
Michael.
anti-brownite.
Yep. Maybe that's where it stems from. Maybe it's all trauma.
Well,
It
that's
was
fair
all
enough.
downhill.
Because we are about to have the ninth North Bank Beer Week. So that would have been 9 years ago that we
That's
made
amazing.
a dry hopped Imperial Brown Ale. The second year, it ended up being some kind of saison that had wine barrel staves added in the bright tank, and I mean, it was an interesting idea at the time. It was fun. I remember being like, oh, okay, this is kind of good. But at some point, at some point, the light bulb came on that I think came on for, I think, most breweries around 2017. Maybe we should make a beer that people want to drink for the official beer of the beer week.
I think beer weeks have that potential to go in a direction where it's like brewers celebrating brewers, and that's great, and I'm all about it. But it's very important to remember that the consumer is still going to have to buy and drink this thing.
Right. So actually, last year's official beer of North Bank Beer Week was by Trap Door. And it was an extremely delicious West Coast Pilsner.
Yeah, we were really psyched to make that beer. It was themed after the week, so we called it Peachy Pilsner because the week's theme was old school peachy designs, and
Which you came up with, by the way. I'll give you credit for it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought like that whole peachy realm is a really cool thing to be explored, and I just think it's underutilized. And then, funny enough, when I was up at Seattle Beer Week this year, I saw Urban Family has like a peachy themed
They
labeled
do
beer.
with raccoons. It's all like raccoons.
It was super cool. I really liked it. But I was like, okay. I was like, maybe it's not the next big thing, but at least it's like a fun one-off thing to do.
It was a ton of fun, and I probably so each year at North Bank Beer Week there's a kickoff event. By the way, this year's North Bank Beer Week kicks off September 12th. At Three Peaks Public House in Ridgefield, but that when we have that kickoff party every year, we give away 300 T-shirts to just first 300 people to show up. You get a T-shirt, and you see a lot of those North Bank Beer Week T-shirts around town pretty frequently. The peachy one, I think, has been the biggest hit we've ever had. Like, I got more comments about that peachy shirt than any other shirt we've ever done. We've done some fun ones. There's some cool North Bank Beer Week shirts out there, but that one, just I hear about it all the time, and it's probably at least once a week I see somebody walk into our own tap room here that they're wearing it.
I'm glad it worked out. I did get some feedback a couple weeks ago that was like, hey, let's not put P in the name this year. And I was like, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It was called Peachy Pills. Yeah, it had P in the name.
Come on. I mean, I hear.
No, I laughed.
I hear what they're
I thought it was
saying.
funny. I mean, I got it. I was like, well, can't win them all.
It was actually kind of funny to see. I mean, Jake, you're close to a decade younger than me. You know what peachy is. You had peachy folders and things. Tom, you know what peachy is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's such a ubiquitous Pacific Northwest thing.
Yeah, I was shocked at how many people, because we put it on tap here and we had the cans at Vice Beer and everything too. I think a lot of breweries did, but I was shocked at how many people I heard that were like, what's peachy pills?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
understand.
My
I was
wife's-
like, you
yeah.
for real? Your wife didn't know?
My wife's from Minnesota area, and,
Okay.
and she, one day was talking about peaches, and she's like, what are you talking about? And I just like, what? This was not a thing that existed in
Were
all
peaches
of
in-
America?
Wait, this is a Northwest thing?
It is
Is
a
it really?
Northwest thing.
Oh wow, that's
yeah.
news to me.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why
I mean,
a
my
few
yeah.
transplants were confused.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
Alright.
It's a good litmus test.
I thought everybody had peaches.
One
I
of us?
thought it was just
Checking
like,
your Northwest card. Like,
Peaches
how
were
long
kinda
have you
like-
been here?
at least in the Pacific Northwest, like peaches were like standard issue. It was like
yeah.
you showed up to school.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have school supplies. You got a couple number 2 Ticonderoga pencils.
Oh, yeah.
And a peachy folder.
Spiral
and-
notebook,
Yeah.
pencils,
I
flop,
mean, yeah.
trash. Yeah, trash.
Well, see,
was so
maybe that was more of a thing in other regions. Was the Trapper Keepers that
okay.
came on later
Yeah,
for me?
that's-
Anyhow, that was more later. High school was when we started seeing Trapper Keepers, and they were more like super graphic. They were like those. They were like encased in a plastic shell.
It had like the multiple folds, like
Yeah, and like
Tightened
you
it up.
take the Velcro fold off the top, and then you
Got
open
it.
it up, and
Yeah,
then like
yeah.
I had one that was like a hawk dunking a basketball, and it was like
Sick.
from and it was like from the view of like just above the hawk on the rim,
I can tell that
and there's all
you-
these players down underneath, just like
I can tell with the memory that you still have of this that you walked around thinking you were hot shit with that. You're like, yeah.
oh man, dude, that was yep.
No, I love it. I love that. I was more the backpack, throw everything in, hope for the best kind of guy.
I'd be having my hawk dunking a basketball, Trapper Keeper, wearing my Detlef Schrempf jersey with my Kamikaze 2s
You were
from Reebok.
you were ahead of your time.
I still wear my Kamikaze 2s and think I'm hot shit. So
I think I've seen you in that outfit before.
you probably have. You probably have. There's no transition.
Hard
From
transition.
that. So hard transition. Let's. I want to do a really bring a spotlight on both of you. Not to embarrass you, make you red in the face or anything, but you guys, I think for my money, are making the best beer on the North Bank here in the last year. And you both really tend to focus on different beers. Not that Jake, you're just an IPA brewer. That's not true. You make some great lagers as well. And same Tom, like you're not just a lager brewer. You won back-to-back gold medals for IPA at Washington Beer Awards, which, by the way,
Yeah, tough to do for sure.
very not just tough to do, but literally, it was reported that is the only time that a single beer has repeated in a category at Washington Beer Awards at all, ever, much less it went gold in 2022 and gold in 2023. That is a profound statement. And then yes.
I have a question just about that, not to sidetrack it, but
Yeah.
as a brewer that is constantly tweaking and evolving and being excited about improving recipes, I tell people this all the time. It's like, one batch to another, Trap Door IPA might not change that much to you, but if we transported ourselves a year back, it could be quite different based off small tweaks that we're making over time. So with a beer like that you win gold and then gold again, is that something that you guys found like a similar recipe, or were there more changes to it?
Well, so
I know part of the answer to this one. This is going to be fun.
I will say that when I took the job at Victor, I took the job, and the brewer before me had been gone for a while, and they had no brewer, and things were in all sorts of disarray. And then the owner says, "Oh, look, we just won gold for the American IPA," and so I didn't brew that.
Okay.
You didn't brew the 2022 batch.
The 2022 batch
Got it.
wasn't mine.
You were there when it won.
I see.
was. I had accepted the job, but had not actually stepped foot in the brewery yet.
I recall this now because
And
Todd
then
was gone.
I looked
yeah.
at the recipes and was like, no, that's not how I will brew
It was
an
it
IPA.
was it was
So
Todd.
I changed things completely.
Credit where it's due. It was Todd at who's now at Old Town. Yep, it was Todd who brewed that beer that won gold in 2022. So go on, because
But yeah. I was like, well, yeah, but my style's different, and so I changed it. I got the idea of kind of like what he was going for. Like,
Sure.
well,
Sure.
I'm going to attack it in a totally different way, and did that, and then it won again.
That's rad, actually. I mean, I don't think it
Impressive.
has to be the. I think that's really cool that you won golds for, call it the same thing, whatever the name is on it, doesn't matter. But two different approaches, 2 gold medals. That's really cool.
it's really
It's a
impressive.
thing. I was surprised.
So this is actually kind of a. I'm just now putting this together. That Jake, I think it's fair to say, Trap Door's known for its IPAs primarily, and Victor-23 is known for its lagers primarily. However, at Washington Beer Awards, you won back-to-back gold medals for IPA, and Jake at GABF, you medaled for a Pilsner.
Yeah, well, Pilsner in name.
Okay. West Coast Pilsner, yeah.
Yeah, so it was. We had a really cool run last year of awards. We entered a lot more than we had in the past. So, having more opportunities is always important if you want to win.
Right.
But this is my first time entering GABF, and we hit for bronze on other hoppy lager, which is basically the West Coast Pilsner category in my mind. So we entered Day Beer, which is our year-round West Coast Pils, and I was super excited. One, because any GABF medal is really cool to me, and it was my first time. And 2, we use Vireman malt on it, so I got my red overalls, which was like a career goal of mine.
That's awesome. So for those that don't know, Vireman Malt, they're a German maltster that if you win a medal at GABF or World Beer Cup using their malt, they send you a big old pair of overalls,
It's like
red overalls.
It's red bibs with their logo on the front. They make you size it. Always size up. European sizes are small.
Yeah.
I got to lose a little bit of belly before I'm going to wear them out. But I've got a lot of friends that have won, and I was just super jealous of, my whole brewing career, basically, of like being a shift brewer and seeing people win and wear their overalls. And I'm like, man, someday that's going to be me. I'm going to wear those things. And I just got them actually like a couple weeks ago. They're not exactly fitting as much as I wanted them to, but I got,
Do they have a return policy?
No, see, I was even told. I asked Owen and Mike at Grains because those guys win everything, and they were like, "Yeah, size up," and I was like, measuring myself. I'm like, I don't know. I don't like these numbers. I'm gonna go with my gut here. It was a little tight, but it's all right.
GABF winter problems.
Yeah. No kidding. If you ever see a social media post of a brewer
Stuffed
wearing
in the overalls.
stuffed in red overalls, you know that they're sending a message to all the other brewers. It's a little bit of a it's a little bit of a peacock.
It's a flex.
It's a pretty big flex. Yeah,
It's a flex
Yeah.
for sure.
For sure.
But yeah, the West Coast Pils is such a cool style. That was like, I was really proud to win for that one because it was that was the first recipe I got to do at Trap Door. And I was like beating the drum of like West Coast Pils for like almost a year. Because I had drank Timbo Pils from Highland Park and loved it so much. And I was like, man, this is like this good shift beer. I'm going to get off work. I want a hoppy beer, but I want to be able to drink it before I can go home and not feel buzzed or anything. And it like hit everything I wanted in a beer. And I was so inspired by Timbo that wrote that recipe. And it had changed by the time we won, but it was cool to win for that one.
Yeah, no, I was super stoked for you guys when.
Yeah, you were the first person to text me. That was cool.
Hey, all right, cool. Yeah, I was over the moon for you, man. Super fun. You guys have both traveled a bit lately. You guys have got the chance to let your hair down, so to speak.
I cut mine off.
Jake cut his off. Yeah, that's right.
Yours way down.
Yeah. Tom, we'll start with you. You just got back from how long in the Grand Canyon, and what did you do?
226 miles worth of the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know the Grand Canyon was 226 miles big.
Oh, it's a little bit longer. But
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was when my mom retired, she was a OBGYN, and 9-ish years ago she retired and did this guided Grand Canyon trip and had finished it and was saying, I want to bring my kids on this. And our busy lives were the crazy thing that my brother's 3 years younger than me, and he's doing his own adventuring. And it finally got to the point 9 years later that we both could do it, and so she took us on this trip, and we got
so you went with your mom and your brother.
With my mom and my brother.
I didn't know
That's
that part.
super cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
How long was it? How many days?
Like 2.5 weeks or so. Yeah.
Wow.
16, 18 days.
And you're floating the river.
Yeah, floating the river, so rafting every day, different campsite every night, pooping in a groover. There's all sorts of
Whatever that
the Grand
means.
Canyon.
Save that sound bite, Zach. We'll need that one.
Pooping in the groover. Get the groover. So it's a dry, arid desert, and there's so many people go through it. There you got to deal with the human waste. Well, it turned out in the 70s when Army surplus became super big, they figured out the best way to deal with the solid waste is you get 20, 30 millimeter ammo cans, and you pop the top off of those and you sit on the edge, and that's what you go in, and you seal it up and you take it on down the river. It was called the groover because you sit on those things and they form grooves. So basically, as nowadays you put a little plastic cutout, basically a cutting board, and you cut out a little seat on it. And
I just want to apologize to the live audience that's trying to eat right now. Just a little poop talk with your dinner.
I don't know how we went straight to the groover.
I mean, you said it. So how was the rafting part of it?
Spent a lot of time on the defecation part. Can we talk about the flotation part?
Yeah.
See any birds?
There's a lot of canyon wrens, yes. Yeah, the rapids were huge rapids. I grew up doing rafting my whole life. My dad was a river guide. Part of one of the reasons I bonded with one of your new brew folks, also a river guide.
Oh yeah, Jim
Old Jim, yeah.
or Brian, because
Well, yeah, Brian.
turns
now,
out
too.
Brian's a big
Or
kayaking
Brian, yeah.
river guy too. Yeah,
But yeah, huge water. The biggest water I've ever done.
Wow.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did they have a class for it?
Yeah, the classes are every other river in the world has their own system, and of course the Grand Canyon is so grand that they have to come up with their own system.
Okay.
Which is basically take your normal
Class
rapids
5.
classes and multiply it by 2.
Oh, okay.
Is basically.
Okay.
But yeah, really big.
So the most treacherous parts you went in, according to Grand Canyon standards, were class.
These rapids went to 11.
They went to 11.
Well, they actually went to 10, but yeah.
Okay. Which
Class 5 is-
which would be like a class 2.5 or 3-ish.
5, 4, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Times by
I don't know
2.
too much
Oh,
of that.
times by
Yeah.
times
Just
two.
to
Yeah. Okay. So, gotcha.
There's the.
I can math.
yeah, I was getting worried
Yeah.
about you for a second.
Yeah,
There's
math
the-
is hard.
The one of the big rapids is named Crystal, and after we got to the bottom, all the guides got together and did a big hive ABC. And you're like, what does that mean? Alive below Crystal.
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, so we were actually in some danger there. Okay, cool, good to know. You guys did a great job.
It's always nice to find out you were in danger after you were in danger.
Yeah,
Could have died back there. Oh, really? Great.
Yeah, the geology changes you see are so crazy on that trip. It's you get to see.
I saw you
Whatever,
post
a
some.
million years of geology changes.
Yeah, I saw you post some pictures of on the socials of some grain storage, old grain storage carvings or hewn out of the rock.
Yeah. There's a lot of some grain storage facilities that are around 1,000 years old, where they
Crazy.
took these little alcoves in the rocks and built walls, and they would build up walls and then start a fire so all the oxygen would burn up and seal it up, and then leave, and then whoever came next would have grain to
Crazy.
start new. Plant new crops, or it was pretty wild to be able to climb up to these things.
Yeah.
1,000 years old,
And that's wild that
Poking out in there.
such a thing was known, that they would know to burn out the oxygen with a fire
Yeah,
and seal it out like that.
yeah.
That's pretty impressive. That they would know such a thing.
Similar in the fact, how the heck did we figure out how to steep grain in hot water and turn it into sugar and then ferment it? How did these things happen? A lot of.
Well, I've seen
Trial and error.
I've seen memes about how beer got started, and just.
Was it how they used to send it around to India, and that's the IPA story?
The classic IPA story, which until it wasn't that long ago, man, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, that I was like, wait, what? The IPA story is actually just a load of crap. I didn't know
I gotta
that.
stop telling people this.
We should probably. You see them, yeah. There's a lot of memes out there, and reels making fun of folks who
You felt seen by some of those. You're like,
I felt personally attacked.
yeah.
By some of those that called me out for So what we're talking about here is you may have heard IPA. It stands for India Pale Ale, and it's because they used hops as a quote-unquote preservative in an ale so that it could make the 3-month trip to India and they would still have beer to drink. That's the classic story that is not true.
It's not quite that tidy. I've read the Mitch Steele IPA book.
Yeah.
It's based on some truth.
It's real to me.
What?
I said it's real to me, damn it.
Well,
My favorite, the Mitch Steele IPA book is really great, and he goes through the Mitch Steele, the guy who started.
he was at Stone.
Stone. Stone.
He's got
He was at Stone, and then was at New Realm in
Yeah,
Georgia. Yep.
And goes into all all that. But my favorite thing about that book is one brewing term that's my favorite brewing term, which is there was shipping strong pale ales to India and all that, and they were in barrels. They were hopped insanely, and very infected with Brett and insanely dry. But this is my favorite brewing term: sucking the monkey. Is what the sailors would do, where they would just siphon from the barrel along the journey to India.
Okay.
And they actually
I like this
had to
term.
build like barrels inside of barrels. They had to double barrel it to build a barrier from. Look it up, Mitch Steele, sucking the monkey.
No, I'm getting on Untapped right now to see if anybody has named a beer.
Beer names.
Right,
Sucking
so three-way
the
collab right here.
monkey.
English style IPA with Brett.
Man.
According to Untapped, I am not seeing any beers called "Sucking the Monkey."
It's not in Trap Door's future.
You
You can have
I can't
it.
imagine
It's not
why.
in Victor's future either.
For those breweries listening, these three I don't think are well. Tom, you might. No? Yes?
No.
No. Okay.
I'm not claiming
Tom
that.
is giving it up
I'm not
as
gonna-
well.
I don't like Brett beer much, and if I was gonna
The beer
do it
name
traditional,
"Sucking
I'd
the
have
Monkey" is available
Yeah.
to all of you.
it's not
it
quite-
must be a barrel-aged Brett ale that's hopped to hell.
Insanely.
It's not quite sucking the monkey. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's correct. That is the term. Yes.
It's not quite that, but one of my favorite in the same vein terms was I was in Yakima a bunch of years ago, and there was a British fellow there talking about American hops, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Mosaic and Citra, they just have this Yankee stank to them," and I was like.
Oh, that's a
Well,
good name.
What is that? And he's like, yeah, during the war, like all the Europeans, like there's these stories of how the Yanks just had this must to them and this just stank. So that's like one of his terminology for Northwest grown hops that are a little bit like
Okay.
OG kind of stanky, and I'm like,
That's beautiful.
yeah. It's like, I've never looked up if that's a beer name, but
Yankee
it's
stank.
stuck with me for a long time.
I've never been prouder to be an American. The Yankee.
We saved
the
their
Yankee
asses in World
steak.
War II.
I'm gonna crack one of these. I'm getting down to the bottom of my beer, so
Yeah, I could take some beer. If,
I've got. I'll
some
pass
to
this over
share.
that way.
Yes.
Tom, just canned today, right?
Correct. Yes.
Just
I
canned today.
got here after a long canning day.
This is called
Flight
Flight
from
from
Hell.
Hell. It's a Hellas lager,
It's a Hellas
obviously.
lager. Yes.
you have more of these for
You should be
yourself.
able to
or do you
tell
need
from the
of
name.
this? Okay, I'm gonna pour it all out then.
It's all for you.
Have at it. There's more.
Oh, thank you. I will take one as well. Yeah.
Flight
such
from
a-
Hell,
such a-
Hellas lager. I'm
Such
excited
a
for
Joker
this.
look to it. I think I said this the other day when I saw the label. It's like Joker smile.
We are a DB Cooper themed brewery. So yeah, Flight from Hell.
The Flight from Hell, yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, always the DB Cooper theming, but also like you guys have done some stuff that like also gets into just like I don't know, a little borderline like conspiracy things too, or like
I think it's
or
the,
like
the Cooperverse as we're calling it now.
the Cooperverse. Yeah, a little bit of I don't know, some of that. You also get into just like well, the tagline is where beer and grand larceny meet. Yeah, so
We haven't been told that's not appropriate yet.
sounds like an invitation to come.
That's not an invitation to come steal from Victor-23.
I don't know how. I mean, knock on fake wood, but I don't know how you guys haven't been broken into yet, and most other breweries have.
Yeah.
We got broken into. They didn't take much of value. They didn't even take any beer. They took our checkbook, and it was like, cool. Well, canceling those checks and getting new ones. I don't know what you're gonna do with those, but
Was
good
that
luck.
here or downtown?
Here, yeah. Here on the east side of Vancouver.
Bummer.
Had a little break in. Not
rough.
too bad a deal. It was annoying, but that was about it. Anyhow, I had a topic I wanted to bring up with you guys. I thought that was interesting to me. Anyhow, I think people find it interesting. This is so West Coast IPA, West Coast Pilsner. I was sitting at the Final Draft Tap House down the street here on Memorial Day. And I was drinking a Wayfinder Keller Hell, and I was drinking. I was getting high on my own supply a little bit. I drank a Mista Dabalina, West Coast IPA there as well, and I had another. I can't remember the other lager I had, but I was sitting there drinking it. I got to thinking about how I'm tasting flavors in beer that didn't exist like even 5 years ago in some cases, and in most cases I'm tasting beer flavors that didn't exist 20, 30 years ago, much less 100 years ago. Now, that's not to say that there's not many styles of beer out there that are still being brewed to very traditional standards. You can find those for sure. But I think particularly in IPA, what we're drinking and calling IPA today is literally nothing like what was on those boats to India.
That's to be sure.
That's a given. But like also literally nothing like what I discovered as IPA in 2008, 2009. I'm drinking these, very caramel malt, crystal malt, big hop additions on the front end, little to no dry hopping. I don't know the first time that I heard the term dry hopping, but I would guess that it was around like 2014, 2015 was the first time I heard such a term. Dry hopping, for those that don't know, is adding hops post fermentation. So the beer's finished fermenting, you're adding it to the fermenter. It's not happening on the brew side. It's happening a week and a half later on the what they call the cold side. Now, a lot of these practices didn't exist, and now we're getting into things like even Jake kind of schooled us on the hop dip when we were over there at Trap Door, and we have since also hop dipped.
You dip, I dip, we dip. Yeah, no,
You'll hand up on my hip. When I
dip, bro?
dip, we
There you
dip. Oh yeah. But it's, what is that? What is a hop dip?
Tom probably has done it more than me, but
Ooh, I'm a hop dipping fool.
we there's research out there that you can find if any brewers are watching, but we kind of have gone after the hop dip method that Kelsey at North Park kind of pioneered, and I'm not really doing it with hop pellets or any of that. We're doing it with hop oils, and
As did we.
yeah. So the main reason for that for us was kind of similarly to what North Park found, is like these oils are made for the whirlpool, so they need heat, but when you add them to the whirlpool, a lot of times they'll get stuck to the walls of the stainless steel, and you're kind of losing a lot of that character just to get left behind, basically. So the method for us is to get it mixed into hot wort because it needs that heat, and then just taking a bucket, basically, and moving that into the fermenter instead of putting it into the prior step, which is the whirlpool step.
Okay.
And
So you're doing it on knockout.
yeah, so what we found is like adding that there gets every bit of that oil component into the beer, and that was the main goal, right? We're spending a lot of money on these ingredients. We want to get everything we can out of them, and we kind of view it as a dual purpose. It's kind of a whirlpool character, but it's mostly a early dry hop character to the beers. So we kind of when we're thinking about calculating a recipe, I calculate it into the dry hops. So, for certain beers that can really boost a hop profile without adding a bunch of vegetal matter that can throw the beer out of balance.
Okay. So I mean, that's just one, newer technique to getting hops into a beer, like late edition, which I think when hazy IPAs kind of came around 2014, 2015, that's when we first started hearing about dry hopping and late edition hops. And the whole idea around hazy IPAs was the hops are added late. And I think we can credit hazy IPAs for bringing a lot of people back into IPA. Because IPA, when I started getting into beer, was a very polarizing word. You either loved them or hated them. They were bitter. The idea was to brew them as aggressively as possible. IBUs were king.
The IBU wars.
The IBU wars.
Peel
yes.
the enamel off your teeth, IPAs.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're scraping your tongue after you drink it, kind of thing.
Remember that bitter beer face commercial? That's what we want.
Yeah, the Busch Light bitter beer face commercials. That's what we're going for. I mean, would you guys think it's fair to say that if there's somebody listening, somebody out there who says, I don't like IPA, do you think one of those reasons could be that they haven't had what is now a modern IPA?
Yeah, I think not liking IPA is just kind of like, a lot of people say they just don't like beer in general.
Sure.
And I think to me that's always been, I got into beer a decade ago when I turned 21, and I learned by drinking a lot of things and from a lot of places, and what I kind of found in that journey was that there's always going to be a beverage, whether that's beer or whatever, but within beer context, there's a beer someone's going to like. And IPA is much, much similar to me. We get people in the tap rooms all the time that, IPA is almost a dirty word, like you're talking about, like, I can't really stand this, that. I just want a Hefeweizen. And I'm like, well, do you like Blue Moon, or like what kind of citrus? Like how do you like this? And then we can guide them in a way where it's like, oh man, try Glowed Up. It's a hazy IPA. I know it says IPA, But if you try it, it's heavy wheat, it's heavy oats,
Yeah.
it's all this fluffy character that you I think you're used to in some of these beers. And the hop character is not bitter; it's fruit and citrus. So I think you might like this.
Yeah.
And I think there's people finding their niche within IPA. You know, for the last handful of years, there's a lot of new folks that have come into craft beer because of hazy IPA.
Yep.
It's opened the door to people that maybe felt the same way about the bitterness or the, you know, sour or these kind of polarizing flavors, that now a sweet, soft, fruity flavor has kind of dominated for a while.
Yeah. I would agree 100%, and that it is kind of a funny thing because, you know, even here at Weiss Beer, we don't have a Hefeweizen. It gets requested probably twice a day. You know, somebody wants
Amber ales and Hefeweizens.
Yep.
Every day.
Amber ales and Hefeweizens because we live in
Every day?
Widmer Hef and Mac and Jack Amber territory. Those were
Which is great, by the way. That Widmer Hef was my gateway beer into
Yep.
craft beer. There's nothing against those. We don't make them because it's not how my personal tastes are anymore. And I think, you know, we can give a variety. Like, you know, we're not going to have an amber ale, but we could have a Vienna lager that is going to do a similar thing for that person, but kind of open them up to maybe the next step in their enjoyment in their journey.
Yeah, I've found it, you know, it's kind of funny because I've done the same thing that, you know, somebody asked for a Hefeweizen and I'm like, let me tell you about hazy IPA.
Yeah. It's like a Hefeweizen with the lime already in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You don't have to drop the lemon in this
It's already in there.
Hefeweizen.
It came from hops, and it's also stronger.
Yeah, it's
Same thing,
It
though.
is a wheat beer. A lot of people would say even Widmer Hefeweizen was not really a Hefeweizen. It was an American wheat ale.
Didn't taste like
But that's the
licorice.
thing is
Yeah.
when someone comes in and asks for Hefeweizen, they want American wheat ale. They don't want German
Right.
Hef.
They don't want
like,
they don't want the
wait,
big
why does this taste like clove?
clove and licorice
Yeah.
Hefeweizen. That's not what they're looking for.
But
Yeah.
I think you know, not to sidetrack, in a similar vein, what you were talking about earlier with like new hop flavors that weren't around per se. I think a lot of that, you know, there was brewing techniques that led some of that charge, but I think the hop industry itself, we can really be, you know, it's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of hops available, but they've also done a really good job of being bringing new products to market that are exciting products. So, you know, there's hop-derived terpenes and oils and whatever. Now that, I mean, shoot, you've got that Mr. Dabalina beer we just drank. There's how many types of mosaic in
There's
that?
4 kinds of mosaic
Right.
in that. 2
So-
hop oils, a T90 pellet, and cryo.
So we're at this point now where it's not just about, we're not just like, all right, I want to go for this flavor profile, so I'm going to buy mosaic. What type of mosaic are you going to buy? How much are you going to use? So
Yeah.
recipe development is so interesting, but also curious right now because you have to find all these inputs that you're going to make this beer with, and it can't just be off name, you know. And I think the best beers right now, especially IPAs, are being made by sourcing top quality ingredients and finding the profiles you want to go for, and not just saying, all right, I want to make a Citra beer. Like, well, what does that mean? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
So one of the things that's really cool that I think like the hazy IPA or juicy IPA or modern IPA thing has done is it became like such a juggernaut that the hop growers and the science and everything have kind of followed that. Like, well, how do we get all these tropical fruit, and like, why does this IPA taste like a mimosa? Let's figure out the science why, and that's driven creating it's these volatile oils, and we like
And that's
that,
how
or,
we
you
got
know.
Sabro.
Well, yeah, you're a double-edged sword. I'm fine. I like Sabro. I don't care. I don't care. I like Sabro, but I don't brew with it anymore because people complain.
No, you can use Sabro. You just can't put it on the label.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
But you know how we
This is
came
true.
with these like hop oils that you at Whirlpool hop oils and all that, and the dip hopping and
Sabro, for the uninitiated, is a very coconut forward, tropical forward.
some people
hop.
think it tastes like suntan lotion, and they're
It-
wrong.
In a lot of cases, it can taste like suntan lotion. But that's the thing too, that I think a lot of folks, you know, they look at a beer menu and they see the different hops, they see the different things being used and everything, and don't really realize they have a beer that has. I'm just going to pull a name out that I've heard. A personal friend of mine actually hates this hop. He's like, I won't drink an IPA with Centennial hops. If I see Centennial, I'm out.
That person's wrong.
We don't,
And
we don't
I-
use Centennial in our brewery.
I didn't name him for a reason. He's probably going to listen to this and
use
be
it
like,
myself either,
but it was funny to me because as I got more and more into the industry, from being just, you know, a fan of beer to then, you know, buying beer to now having a brewery, I've learned so much about Centennial hops and really realized, like, oh, they're in a lot of things that are kind of undisclosed. It's in there, but we don't talk about it. And so it's like Centennial's used so widely for so many reasons. And so many of these hops is, you can't just look at a name and be like, oh, I didn't like this beer and I saw that it had this hop on it. And then I tried this other beer, it had that hop too. It must be that hop that I hate.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, because hops can be used at so many different points in the process.
There is the most important part about you know, how the brewer uses it.
Yes, it's how the brewery uses that hop.
Not just that. I mean, like, now that, you know, little sidetrack. Now that I'm in a position at Trap Door where I'm not glued to the brewery. I have more time to go source raw materials. I've learned in the last few years, like, you know, a hop is not a hop is not a hop. Like, this farm to that farm, Yakima to Oregon, like,
Also true.
like, it's an agricultural product. Beer is an agricultural product. We have all these inputs that we're putting into it, but it's on that brewer to decide what they're gonna do. So if I'm gonna go find Centennial per se from Yakima or Oregon or whatever, it's like wine grapes. There's regional differences to these hops.
Yep.
So, you know, you may find you don't like. I mean, I get people that don't like, you know, Nelson or Rawaka from New Zealand, and, you know, that could be that they had a beer that just didn't have a good lot of that, and it was very negative flavor impact for them. Whereas if you can find a brewer that's really putting a lot of time and effort into sourcing their materials, you can get really any hop and have a great expression out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's parts of me that wishes we were in a world that, I feel like in the last 10 years, we've really marketed beer towards the hops that we're using and not the flavors that we're going for. So, like IPAs, a lot of people are shopping with their eyes and saying, oh, okay, this can says it has Citra and Mosaic. Oh, I love those. But my Citra Mosaic beer is different from yours, which is different from yours.
It's true.
So you know, it can be tough.
Exactly why I do not put what hops I use on
it's smart.
any of my. I'm chasing a flavor, not a like. Well, I want to have Citra on the label. Yes, I want what Citra does.
They've
but
done a good job of
maybe
branding
my
these
Citra can't
hops,
do
so
that.
it makes sense to use the branding that they've built on the hops on your cans or your whatever. But at the same time, I get not wanting that. You know, I really like that people like Breakside or Grains of Wrath or some of these folks, like, they don't always tell you what's in the beer. It's like, oh no, this tastes like strawberries and this and that and this. And
I feel like people won't not buy your beer because You don't say what hop, but people might not buy your beer because it says Centennial on the label or whatever.
There's some truth to that.
It is a game we play.
It is a game. It is a game, and it's and I have landed hard.
You're
Also,
squarely. You were hard
I
on
buy
the
on
side
the spot
of.
market, so I might be like, well, I can't get Mosaic for this version. of this beer.
You are hard on the side of.
But no,
I will not reveal my.
You come and
hops.
talk to me and ask me, and I'll tell you. But otherwise, I'm not putting it on my labeling.
It's funny
Unless I'm pushing it as a marketing
I land
thing.
on the other side of that.
Yeah.
I am very much like Here are the hops in this.
Yeah.
Here are even with something like Mr. Dabalina. Yeah, I'm like, this is Mosaic Dynaboost, Mosaic 701, Mosaic T90, Mosaic Cryo. I want people to know and recognize like a lot went into this beer, which I think sometimes you also have to do to justify a higher price point.
Yeah,
totally.
premiumizing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you guys do a good job of that. Someone else that I'd like to shout out for this is Kings and Daughters. They do a great job of not only saying what variety and what type they're using, but they go as far as to talk about what farm these are coming from. I think that's kind of the next generation of getting people involved. Like let's say the last 10 years, we involved people by saying, "Hey, there's Citra in this beer." And they got invested in Citra, and they're like, "Oh, I love Citra beers. I'm gonna go buy Citra beers." Now I think the next, and this is not happening anytime soon, but I think the next evolution of that is, where did you get your Citra, and putting that on the labels is an interesting thing to me. Of like, now we can get this, get someone that's a fan of your brewery, and say, "Oh, I'm a fan of a Citra beer from Vice, but I like the Citra that they got from Carpenter Ranch," or wherever.
Right.
And that's very nerdy. That's going to be the nerds that are into that, which I am as well. So I love that element. But
Yep.
I think there's some really cool aspects. Like on all of our fresh hops this last year, we put the farms that we worked with on the label. If they had a brand, like we work with Roy, I see a sticker over there. When we used Fresh Roy Amarillo in Fresh Glowed Up, we made sure the Roy logo was on that can.
That's
because I think it's like important to tell the story of that beer, and maybe answer some questions of why did you source that, where did you go, this. That's my that's my own thing.
With
I guess.
you. I nerd out on this on the same stuff, but yeah, at the same time, I have no idea what hops are in Breakside Wonderlust or Breakside IPA.
They probably
change.
I don't care.
And those aren't beers that are built for that. It's not like they're hitting a different market, and that's great.
Yep. Just a different approach to same thing. Many ways to skin a
different
cat.
scale.
Yeah. I got a couple games to play here. We're gonna start out by imagining a alternate version of reality in this little thing that we call Into the Multiverse. We're gonna go into the multiverse, not the multiverse. That's a different thing. This is the multiverse.
Oh, it is the malt.
Yes.
I can see it now.
We're going to imagine a world that is similar to ours, but just on a different plane of existence. You guys have seen an Avengers movie or two, I'm sure. So this is an alternate reality parallel to our own. Being North Bank brewers and living here on the North Bank, I am extremely proud of the North Bank and what has happened here in the last 10 years. Living here, exploring beer here, living in a world where 10 years ago I went into Portland and would try to put on events like the North Bank Showcase at Loyal Legion, and have everyone in the room be like, who are these breweries? I've never heard of any of you.
Who?
Yeah, and now to be able to say, hey, we've got some real players in the game. I think we still sometimes get overlooked.
Yeah, we are the stepchild of Seattle and Portland.
We are the stepchild of both of those things. So this is my question for the multiverse. What if Vancouver and Bellingham traded places geographically? What if all of what is Vancouver was located an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Seattle instead of 5 minutes from Portland?
Well, I still live in Portland, so
Yeah, same here. We were okay. To get to work.
You guys both live in Portland, I know. So
Just across the river, though. I bike to work every day.
I would
Except for when I don't.
I don't know.
okay. Let's take that little wrinkle of how long it takes you to get to work out of it. So
there's a wrinkle in
wouldn't
time.
take you
We
5
could
hours to get to work. Let's say that you didn't live in Portland in this scenario. You lived in
Got it.
Darrington,
Sorry.
just outside of Bellingham, or Blaine, Washington, just a little north of Bellingham. Let's say that
Is your premise that Bellingham breweries are more respected than North Bank breweries?
I think my premise is based on the fact that Bellingham is perceived as a beer destination.
Okay.
And folks haven't quite clued into Vancouver, Camas, Washougal as a beer destination.
Sure.
And I believe they should.
I do too. I mean, I think that awards aren't everything, but you look at Washington Beer Awards last year, like we definitely have an outsized impact on things like that.
Yeah, you look at the medal count for North Bank Brewers, that is to say Southwest Washington Brewers, for those that don't know the term North Bank, we're talking about the North Bank of the Columbia River, and that's kind of defined this region of Southwest Washington breweries for, Vancouver to Longview, all the way out to White Salmon, Camas, Washougal. There's a lot of great breweries that I think have been largely overlooked because people go on vacation, they go for a weekend away, and they go, I'm going to go to Portland for beer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think if you go to Portland for beer and I understand. I have a brewery in Vancouver. I know this sounds a little selfish, but
no, I get what you're
take
saying.
my brewery out of it. I don't care. This brewery didn't exist a year and a half ago. I would still say a year and a half ago, it's one of the reasons that we started North Bank Beer Week and these things was North Bank beer is worth stopping by.
Yeah, I think now that you've kind of explained, I get that. When I was first thinking, I was like, well, I mean, Bellingham is like a vacation. There's a lot of tourism, like yada, yada. People kind of skip over us to get to Portland. And now that you said that clicked. It's like, yeah, I do think that there's plenty of reasons to not just pass through Vancouver, Vantucky, as we used to call it when I grew up.
I know.
You can stop here and have a really enjoyable time if you're doing beer tourism. Even a lot of different stuff now. I mean, I started at Trap Door 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, and I didn't have much to say about Vancouver, but the restaurant scene, there's great bars, there's really interesting folks that are doing cool stuff up here now, including the beer. And from my perspective, the beer is what I know. So I think that if you're coming down from Seattle, let's say, and you're just like, oh, let me get to Portland so I can hit the top 5 breweries there, you would be remiss to not stop in and just check in and see what was going on at at, you know, downtown alone, there's Brothers Cascadia, Lewitt, Trap Door, I'm sure plenty of others. Those are the ones I can think of.
Heathen's down there. A Little Vice is down there.
Little Vice, yeah. Or you know, headed out a little east if you're in Portland.
Victor-23 is not far from downtown at all.
That as well.
No, you don't have to pay for parking.
Yeah, that's
Our beers are cheaper than any beer you buy in downtown Vancouver.
there's that too.
But yeah, I think there's a really like concentrated area down there. Or if you want to get crazy and you're headed out to the gorge and you want to hit Camas Washougal, like we have some really cool stuff going on out there. It's really bubbling up. Washougal's about to be the highest per capita brewery town in Washington here shortly once Grains of Wrath opens up. But we've got, you know, us at Trap Door, Recluse, which is killing it, is an old coworker of Tom's.
Yep.
Gus's.
You guys have a collab with a Recluse in the tanks as well.
Yeah,
Recluse and Irrelevant.
Three-way collab. The Way Losers, as I like to call us, all former brewers of Wayfinder. Yeah.
And we're releasing a Recluse collab tomorrow. Gus came over and we brewed a West Coast IPA with some really cool tropical hops, and
Awesome.
I'm excited for that one. It's called B Movie Monster.
Okay.
So we have a dual collab release this weekend. They're releasing a Hellas lager called Spiders, because Recluse and Trap Door, both spider names.
Okay.
And then we named ours B Movie Monster and did the whole art around like a really crazy spider
Nice.
movie poster thing.
Super fun.
Yeah, it's fun, man, and I really like being up here. It's the first like you know, I've brewed in Portland, Bend, Astoria. I've been all over the state of Oregon. I feel like coming over to Washington in the Southwest region really was the first time that I felt a real collegial, collaboratory environment that everybody is, you know, wanting success for each other. And, you know, there's competition, but it's healthy competition of, like, I want you to push me. I don't want to, like, put you down for us to come up. And that was exciting for me to be a part of.
It is. It's a ton of fun. And yeah. Oh,
My answer?
yes. Go, Tom. What do you think?
Whether I was in Bellingham or Vancouver or Portland or whatever, I don't care where I am. Put my pants on one leg at a time, brew the best goddamn beer I can brew. And, you know, you've taken a lot of brewers from Portland now that are doing that in Vancouver. There's already a lot of good brewers in Vancouver.
There's
Portland's gonna start coming to us.
There's a similarity there between Vancouver and Bellingham too. Is that a lot of Portland brewers have gone to Vancouver or Bellingham now, and a few Bellingham brewers, Chuckanut specifically.
Yeah, I mean the tree from Chuckanut,
the tree of
Josh
Chuckanut,
Freem, Kevin Davey. I don't know who else. You know.
Don't give
Will
him too much
Kemper
credit.
From Chuckanut has one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard in the brewing industry, which is American craft brewers, they're really great about thinking outside of the box. Maybe too good. Maybe to brew a good Kolsch, don't add pineapple to it, just learn how to brew a good Kolsch.
You heard it here. The truth.
I mean, sure, you go add pineapple things.
These are fighting words. I know these are fighting words on this podcast, but Chuckanut Kolsch is the best American Kolsch.
it's relative, yeah.
Jake knows that my favorite American Kolsch is 5440's Cascadia Kolsch.
Nope, that's a good one too.
Which is what I enjoyed.
It is a 1A, 1B for me, but Chuckanut definitely comes out on
Chuckanut's
top.
very good. It's very good. But I had on Memorial Day a Cascadia Kolsch.
100 Cascadia Kolsches.
Yeah.
I wish it was 100. I only had one.
I need to do a brewery run out in Washougal because there's a lot of good breweries out there.
All right, I got another little game to play here. We're gonna have you guys have played like fantasy football
Did we leave
fantasy?
Did we leave the multiverse?
We're leaving the
leaving
multi.
Okay, I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're back at Vancouver's Vancouver again now, and Bellingham is Bellingham once again now. Yeah, back to the way things are in at least
The way it was intended.
at least in this universe. But all right, let's have a draft.
What's on draft?
Okay, Jake, I'm going to award you the first pick of the draft. You're gonna get the first pick of the draft. Tom,
right.
you'll get the second pick of the draft. I'll have the third pick. And the way this goes, it's a snake draft.
Oh.
So
Don't get lost in the snake.
Yeah.
Is this all sport ball references?
don't-
I
don't-
get any of these.
Don't step on snake. But there's you're gonna be first.
Why'd it have to be snakes?
Man, we got all the references for
still-
snakes, man.
I'm still thinking of the groover.
Get these mother snakes off the mother plane.
These Monday to Friday snakes.
So, Jake, you're going to be first. Tom, second. I'm going to pick third, and then I'll be first of the second round. So I'll pick third and fourth, and then I'll go back to you. And
We
then
have
back to
20
Jake.
rounds.
Jake. We're not going to go 20 rounds. This is a really small team. It's a 3-on-3 league that we're drafting here. And what we're going to do, because you guys have traveled, and I've had too much fun today. We were going to get into more of all of y'all's travels because Jake has been well-traveled this last year as well. We didn't really get the time to talk about your travels to both Belize and New Zealand.
Yep.
Awesome.
I'm sorry I talked too much about the groover.
But
the
there's
groover really set us aside.
there's an opportunity to bring those things up here,
Sure,
and we'll
sure.
still get to talk about these things. We just spent so much time talking about how to defecate in the Grand Canyon that we
Very
didn't
serious business.
we didn't get to Jake's stories.
It's okay. I just got like engaged and
Jake proposed to his longtime girlfriend and got engaged in New Zealand, and it's freaking awesome.
but not important at all. It's fine. I get it.
It's better.
Pooping in a bucket is much more important.
It's better for us all to understand how the Grand Canyon works when you have to take a number two. This draft is your favorite destinations. We're going to draft destinations that you would like to have a beer in. These destinations, when I say destination, it could be a country, a state, a particular city. I want you to paint a picture for us of that perfect beer. So the pressure is going to be on Jake here with the first overall pick to pick the best place in the world to enjoy a beer.
I'm going to have 3 of these picks, correct?
Eventually.
Okay. Mine are very personal, so I don't think you'll take any of them, but I'm going
Okay.
to start off with Cologne, Germany. That has been one of my favorite beer destinations I've ever been to. Kolsch service is just the tops.
Okay. Tell people a little bit about Kolsch service. What's that mean?
So Kolsch service.
We already
is-
identified the best American Kolsch.
Yeah.
But what is Kolsch service in Germany?
So Kolsch service in Germany is very similar to. I think about it if you've ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse. And you've got like the green and red kind of situation. Like the meat just keeps coming. So instead of meat, it's just Kolsch. And I'm a kind of a slow beer drinker. So if I'm handed a 20-ounce pint or a 16-ounce pint, it kind of gets warm and flat by the bottom. Whereas in Cologne, and you're drinking Kolsch,
it comes in a sponge.
It comes in a sponge, which is about 8 ounces, I think, right? Something like that.
It can be 8 to 11 ounces.
Okay, so I like the smaller ones.
Yeah.
But the
300 to 500 milliliters, I
Gotcha.
think.
The idea is that you're sitting there at the place, and first off, they only make one type of beer, so you just don't have to look at a menu. You just say, bring 2, and they know exactly what you want because there's only one type of beer. You sit down and you get a coaster in front of you, and however many beers they bring over, they just kind of mark off on your coaster with tally marks. So, I say I'll bring 2, one for me and one for my friend, and it's crisp, cold, carbonated, beautiful Kolsch beer, and you get through the 8 ounces so quickly that there's someone, a waiter, walking around with a tray of more beautifully cold, crisp Kolsch, and before you're about to finish it, another one's landed on your table.
Yeah. And there are these really cool circular trays.
Yeah. Super cool.
When we had when I was helping start the juice box in Centralia, we had a Fru Kolsch, which is one of the Cologne, Germany breweries, a Kolsch tray, and filled with Cascadia Kolsch stanges.
Nice.
Which was super fun. And we played around with a little Kolsch service back in the day.
It's something
Who did the Kolsch service? Was it Recluse? Did a Kolsch service recently?
Did he? I don't know. I know Obelisk is doing it out in
Obelisk has done it in Astoria a couple times.
I don't know anybody locally doing it, but please tell me who's doing it.
I feel like I saw it recently, and if Recluse hasn't done it yet, they need to. So
it's just super fun, and taking it back to the place and time. It's like Cologne is right on the Rhine River, and there's this beautiful church called the Dome, and you just have this incredible aura in this city, and you're just walking around, and it's sunny, certain times of year, sunny, and just downing these Kolsches one after another and doing like a beer crawl of all the different Kolsch breweries. And, the fun part is at the end, when you're ready to be done, you take your coaster and set it on top of your beer, and that's how they know, like, all right, I'm tapping out. I can't do any more.
After you've got 12 tally marks of Kolsch on there,
it can get a little hectic.
Drank about a growler and a half's worth of Kolsch.
God, just goes down so smooth, though,
good. All right.
That's me. That's
All
number
right.
one pick.
Number one. I got to take my notes here. Number one pick was Kolsch.
Kolsch in Cologne.
Kolsch in Cologne. Tom, you're up. Where and what are you drinking?
I would, if I could go back in time to my 20s, punk rock band, rehearsing in my basement, a couple 12 packs of Bridgeport Hop Czar, first beer that peeled the enamel off my teeth and made me go,
okay.
what?
That is a throwback.
I mean,
If I could go back to that would be great.
I didn't know we were doing time travel, but I'll allow it.
All options are on.
Time travel to go back to.
I want to try that beer again.
You want to
It's
do.
the only time that beer existed and would taste that good.
I'm putting you
Set
down
and
for
setting.
Portland, Oregon Garage
2005
with
in my basement.
2005
Playing really bad noise rock.
I was 12.
Bridgeport.
Oh, you child.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
You both are children. I was 23 already in 2005.
Wait.
Bridgeport IPA? That's what you said?
No.
Bridgeport Hop Czar.
Yeah, excuse you.
Hop Czar specifically, yes.
Bridgeport
okay.
IPA was the IPA that was at my
was not an
college
IPA?
graduation party, though.
Okay. All right.
Local boy.
That I like it. I like it. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna take a Pilsner in Prague. This is not a place I have been. This is like a bucket list thing for me.
This is affirmational.
This is. I'm putting it out there in the universe that I want to drink Pilsner in Prague, or even better, would love to drink Pilsner just outside of Prague in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia. Here at Weiss Beer, we make a Pilsner, which Tom has brewed the best batch of said Pilsner. That is
Elevated
a decocted Millie. My great-grandmother's name is Millie, and she was born in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia. And so that's where I want to go. That's where I want to enjoy a Pilsner in Czechoslovakia. I think that'd be great. She was born in Czechoslovakia. It is now Czech Republic. I understand that producer Sean has corrected me.
Redact all of
The
that.
differences between Czechoslovakia and I grew up, most of my life
I
knowing
don't know if you're
that-
allowed
that
there now.
most of my life knowing that part of my heritage was Czech, and was even more so Czechoslovakian, and then of course it became the Czech Republic, and now it's just Czech, and now we get to make a whole bunch of puns about the word Czech, and we have a beer called "Don't Sweat the Technique." I get it.
I think the best is reality check. Moonlight.
Reality Check.
That's my favorite.
I would agree that Reality Check from Moonlight, which, by the way, I have some in the cooler.
Can we please
now.
drink that?
We can get into that after we're done here. There is some Reality Check in the cooler, along with some Death and Taxes. But yeah, number 3, it's Pilsner in Pilsen. That's what we'll call it here on my notes. Number 4, snaking back around, I get the 4th pick, which is the first pick of the second round. I'm going to go ahead and say one of the most impactful beers on my life and my career, and one of the reasons that I championed the use of Lucre handles. And when we opened up the juice box, I believe, no one's proved me wrong, that we were the first Lucre handles in Washington State. I'm going to go with having a slow pour Pilsner at Bierstadt in Denver is one of my favorite places to enjoy a beer, and particularly a slow pour Pilsner. Look it up if you don't know. It's great.
Oh yeah, I
Tom,
got to
you're up.
brew a collab with what's her name?
You guys,
Ashley?
Ashley,
yeah.
at Wayfinder.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we had slow pour.
You guys-
on
golden
at Wayfinder.
Is that the
for-
Golden
I
Tiger?
poured
Yeah,
that
it's one of my
beer.
favorite beers that we brewed there.
That beer was called what? Tiger.
Golden Tiger.
Golden
yeah,
Tiger.
which is a beer bar in
Beer bar in
Pilsen.
Prague.
Or in Prague.
It's in
yeah,
Prague.
Yeah, in Prague.
It's a beer bar in Prague.
Yeah.
And
so
we
good.
poured that at the juice box
Oh,
when
nice.
I was there
I brewed that.
on a
Well,
Lucre
with
handle.
Ashley and, yeah.
Just a
Nice.
cheeky
So-
triple decocted pale
Yeah,
Czech
yeah,
lager.
yeah, like
Okay,
11
okay.
Plato, amber. Yeah. I wanna go to wherever in England has the best real ale. I wanna drink some good cask beer.
You're going to England
I
for
want-
cask beer.
I want to drink the best cask beer that there is. I love cask beer. That's good.
For the uninitiated, what's a cask beer?
Beer that is
Flat beer.
live and real.
It's naturally carbonated,
naturally carbonated.
which means very low carbonation.
AKA
yeah.
flat.
served in its natural state, pumped out of the cask.
I think a number of people have seen like you can see it at Horse Brass Pub. You can see
Yeah.
it at a number of places in Seattle.
Steeplejack does a bunch of it.
Steeplejack
Yeah,
has it,
their
but it's
brand is
a
really good
cask
at that.
engine. It's called
Yeah, beer engine. Yeah.
beer engine.
Yeah.
I've heard it called a pump. It's a
Yeah, it is a
cask
pump.
pump.
It is a pump that just a hose that goes into the.
Yeah, Moon and Sixpence.
Yeah.
Moon and Sixpence has one. Yes, yeah. Zach.
There's varying
called it.
levels of the quality of how that's done.
There's a
and-
Cask Fest now. I think Away Days hosts in Portland.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
That's a good spot to start if you haven't had cask beer.
Okay, you're up.
All right. My next one is going to be. I'm just going off of experiences I've had recently. New Zealand, which we kind of talked about, that we had a really cool. We went for hop harvest among other vacation things, and I had some amazing New Zealand hazy pale ales in a hop farm field with this lunch that we had. And I think a lot about beer for me is time and place. Maybe I could have this same beer right now and I wouldn't be so excited about it.
Oh,
The old set and setting.
Yeah,
Yes.
that set and setting thing where it's like, man, it's just we're hanging out, we're in this hop field, we're getting served this lunch, and right above me is just Nelson Sauvin hops that I'm just plucking off and smelling, and New Zealand hops are like my favorite hops. So drinking some really cool, I don't even honestly remember the brewery that it was, but it was just this fantastic citrusy hazy pale ale. And I didn't think I was going to say that. I would ever say that because I don't drink a lot of hazy beer, even though we make a lot of hazy beer. But that was just like a 5.5% crusher, all the hop character that I wanted in the right place at the right time.
5.5%, 5 caps on Untapped. You're just all
Hell
in.
yeah.
All right,
My last one.
first pick of the third round.
Yeah,
Your final pick.
So my last one's a sentimental pick. This is, hate me if you want, but grew up drinking Coors Light, and that was one of the first beers I ever had, and still love it to this day. I would crush the hell out of some Coors Lights. So the beer is Coors Light. The place is my buddy's farm on Sauvie Island, and we grew up going there. They've got a private little beach area on
The Parsons?
Yeah, you know the Parsons?
Yeah, I grew up on Sauvie Island too.
Oh shit, that's crazy. I did not know that at all. Yeah, so wow.
I didn't get to
Connections
hang out with the
being
Parsons,
made,
though.
right?
Oh man, okay. I was gonna say, did we hang out with each other? Like,
yeah,
wow.
I live
Small
on the
world.
other side of the island.
That was a crazy small world. So yeah, the Parsons, shout out. It's been like a huge part of my life growing up is going out to their beach, and it's this cool little plot of sandy beach right on the Columbia River, right across from Frenchman's Bar, for the Vancouver folks that might be listening.
Yeah. Frenchman's Bar, where D.B. Cooper's cash was found, actually. If we're
really?
bring it all the way
It's all ties
to,
together.
All ties together.
to Victor-23.
Wraps up in a neat little box.
Yeah, so wow, I'm glad I
it all
said
comes
this.
together. It all fits nicely.
Yeah, so that's like just all the most wonderful people and nights that I've had of like chilling at a campfire on this beach in a summer night, sleeping in the sand, hanging out. Like those beers just hit different, and they, we've talked a lot about like premium beer and this and that, but at the end of the day, like the most impressive, wonderful drinking experiences I've ever had is with friends and around like people that I love, and that's definitely that place for me.
All right. Tom, you're back up. You're on the clock for the second pick of round 3.
To go with something quite similar. One of the best beers I've had in the last some months was on the Grand Canyon. At a camp, we pulled up, and I found a beer floating in the river. And I had drank many great beers. I brought a lot of beers with me, but this beer was a Miller Lite, and I grabbed it, and the river guides, river beer, if you find it, you must chug it. And it Grand Canyon temperature, a nice, 48 degrees or whatever. That was the best beer I had.
That's beautiful.
That's fantastic. No label or anything, just...
the printed on label, I could read it was Miller Lite. It was Miller Lite. I was like, it's Miller Lite. I don't know if I had ever had a Miller Lite before that. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I stole my dad's Rogue and stuff.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Macros have their time and place. And
They do.
Yes, they do.
That
they
beer
absolutely do.
survived whatever its journey was down a canyon to my hands in a unoxidized, pristine state.
That's amazing. That's crazy. I'm gonna go with, and this for those who know me, might not be super surprised, but I absolutely love a Poleeko Pale Ale at Anderson Valley Brewing Company on their 18-hole disc golf course out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, Central California. You definitely have to go out of your way to visit Anderson Valley, but it's definitely worth it. It's just so fun. It's a pale ale that I can thank our producer Sean Burke for this information and helping me identify this, because it was such a. I love this pale ale so much, and I was like, there's just this like metallic caramelized flavor to it that I just don't see many other places. And he was like, oh yeah, those big German tanks that they brew it in are direct fire, and that direct fire has a caramelization effect. And I was like, that's it. That's the through line that I taste in so many Anderson Valley Brewing Company beers that I absolutely love, which Poleeko Pale Ale. We just did Boonville Beer Fest. Went down there, and that's the first thing I did when I got there. We pulled in. I was like,
Give him a big ball hornin'.
a big old ball hornin', ball of Steinbeer, no Kimmy. You probably not the first or the last time you'll hear me talk about Anderson Valley Brewing Company on this podcast, because they do hold a special place in my heart. You
guys did a beer with them,
California.
Huh?
You did a beer with them, correct?
We did. We made an ESB with them called Wolverine, and it was because we brewed it on their old system. So they still have the like old setup that they brought over from when it was in the basement of a tavern in town. Like that's when they got started in 1987. And now, obviously, they're much larger. They have all this new equipment, but this system included a mash tun that was a dairy tank. That to stir the mash, we were given this claw that you held on to it. Claw. Oh yeah, and it had 3 huge prongs that went out, and we had to stir the mash like manually, and we're all just taking turns and just working up a sweat with this thing that looked like
how I have to brew everything.
looked like
You poor thing.
looked like the Wolverine, you know? It's just like, this is so fun. So
Nice.
that was a great experience
That's awesome.
for sure. But yeah, no, Poleeko Pale Ale, when I get out to at Anderson Valley, that's what I'm going for. That's one of my favorite places. So what we got here is Jake, your spots are Kolsch in Cologne, a
Hazy Pale
Ale in New Zealand, and a Coors Light at Parsons Farm.
Yeah.
That's what I got you down for. Tom, you've got a Hop Czar in a Portland, Oregon garage in 2005.
Dank basement, but yeah, dank basement.
Dank basement.
Yeah,
Okay.
Unfinished.
Unfinished
Yes.
dank basement. You've got an English cask beer in England.
Yeah.
Yep. And a Miller Lite chug on the Grand Canyon.
Yes, that's correct.
And what I've got is a Pilsner in Pilsen, a slow pour Pilsner at Bierstadt in Denver, and a Poleeko Pale Ale at Anderson Valley Brewing Company. This has been a blast, guys. Super appreciate you guys doing this coming on this podcast and having a little fun. We talked a lot more beer, I think, than I intended to, but that's kind of what happens when you get three guys just as nerdy and into it as us and as passionate about it as us. It kind of comes out that way, and I'm okay with that. But
Yeah.
that's it. That was Overthinkr.